everyone, this is Ashley Ellenboss with Skyhouse Herb School and Apothecary, and today I'll be sharing my personal story with lemon balm. Now, this is an amazing plant. I've used it so many times over the last 20 years. However, this was a very special time because I used this plant solely for a full month with the intent purpose of studying its effects in my body. And fortunately, as a part of our Roots and Spheres course with over 250 people, I also got to hear feedback from other people who were taking this plant for the same month. So I'm going to share with you my personal experiences and then also some of the experiences of these students so that you can get a really good picture of how lemon balm can work and how you might be able to use it. Now, if you want to learn more about lemon balm as a plant, its history of use, which is fascinating, how it got its Latin name, Melissa officinalis, then please listen to my Herb of the Month video, which you can find on my Herb of the Month playlists. So now to my story. Again, I've used this plant a lot over the last 20 years with clients, with my kids, and it's always had a very gently calming effect and I'll say spirit restoring effect. However, there were some really notable moments over this last month where I could really feel the work of lemon balm in my body. One interesting thing about this plant is the Latin name Melissa officinalis. Melissa comes from a name from a Greek goddess who is the goddess of the bees. And so Melissa means of the bees or honeybee. And I was at my local co-op and this was maybe a week into taking this plant. And I came across these two mugs that were on special, like clearance. Let me just show them to you. And if you can't see, if you're not watching the video, I'm holding up two mugs that have these beautiful honeybee imprints in them. And these were made by a local potter and they were on clearance for 50% off. And I saw them and I was like, I have to have these mugs. And I typically don't like small mugs. These are maybe they hold a little less than a cup of fluid each. But for whatever reason, I was so attracted to these mugs and I thought, I have to get one for me and one for Adam. Funny thing was, as soon as I got to the register, I remembered, oh, yeah, of course. I've been taking lemon balm. I've got bee energy inside of me. This is like the quintessential bee plant. The pollinators love it. And again, it has a long history of to be used among beekeepers, not only for helping give the bees food, but beekeepers would use this plant to rub on hives that they would establish to attract bees to it. And now they actually make chemical compounds and sprays that beekeepers use to spray new hives that contain the same active ingredients that the plant lemon balm has. So there's a very, very strong correlation between bees and this plant. So I just thought that was so funny how it wasn't conscious that I was so attracted and that I had to have these. But then, of course, I was like, yeah, it's Melissa talking through me. The other thing that I noticed was that I was really attracted to the lemon scent. And this last month was challenging for a number of reasons, but one of the main themes that came up for me personally was the death of my uncle. So my uncle had a stroke and was found in his apartment unresponsive. I think it was probably about a month and a half ago now. And so he was on life support. We were trying to figure out what to do. And eventually he was moved into hospice and taken off life support. And so, I was pretty close with my uncle. I was in their wedding when I was just 5 years old. So I've known him my whole life. And I'm very close with my cousins and my aunt. And so, my this uncle is through marriage. So my aunt, who's my mom's sister's husband. So anyway, when it was decided that we were going to move him into hospice, I went there with my aunt and my two cousins, whose father it was, and I just sat there in the room with him. And I brought a bunch of essential oils in my death doula kit. I took a course on helping to support people through the transition of end of life care, and not only helping the person at end of life, but also helping family members. So I'll show you, I'm going to just turn my camera. You can see that little briefcase there with the flowers painted on it. That's what I took with me. And it has a bunch of herbs and essential oils and other things that can be really helpful to use in that type of end of life care situation. So I had all these different essential oils, and I was just so attracted to lemon. And so I used a blend of lemon and lavender in an essential oil diffuser, and then I also mixed that into some carrier oil. I think it was jojoba oil to massage his feet and hands. And what's so interesting about limonene, which is one of the same, it's an active compound found in lemons and lemon peels and also in lemon balm and lemongrass, is that limonene it's a known anti anxiety compound. And so what it does, it's really interesting. There's been a ton of studies on this compound, but one study from 2021 in the Journal of Phytomedicine, they used limonene and they found that it had an effect of upregulating dopamine release in the brain. And also it depolarized it induced depolarization in the GABA in the GABA receptors in the brain, or increased GABA release, which is a compound that also helps to downregulate the stress response in the body. So we know that this compound regulates mood, it increases feelings of happiness and well-being. And I just knew I wanted to have that scent in the room. So in some way, lemon balm was there. I also had some tea. And so I brewed some tea for my family. And, hopefully this was relaxing and soothing for them as well. But, I know for myself, being in the hospice room and massaging his feet and hands and having those scents in the air definitely created a feeling of calm in the space. And I think that was so healing because, it's just such a hard and sad situation. Then later on, there were other situations that came up where there was, just a lot of, I would say, kind of family tension, not within my immediate family, but sort of like, just when there just was a lot going on outside of just the passing of my uncle and preparing for that with other family members. And, I just really found that lemon balm was so calming, and it helped me to stay centered and not get triggered as much as I might often get triggered. And I want to give you a few examples, not with family members, but just in my personal life where I would have normally gone down a road of anxiety or being triggered, and I didn't. And I really think that this was because of lemon balm. So the first one was that I took my daughter to a functional medicine doctor who is a friend of a friend. And normally when I bring my kids to doctors, even if they're natural, homeopathic, I get anxious, and I get really worried. I worry about them in the room, and are they feeling stressed? And I had lemon balm tincture. Actually, I don't think I have it on my desk now. I have it in my purse downstairs, but I had it in my purse. I still have it in my purse, so that whenever I would go out and I'd be like, okay, I'm going into a stressful situation, let me take some drops of this tincture before I go in. So I did that for me and my daughters as we went into the doctor's office. And I just felt at such peace. And I had such like a keen awareness of the practitioner and her incredible skill and poise. And she took such great care of my girls. And I just was like, I don't have to worry. I can leave my worries somewhere else because that's actually not going to be helpful in this situation. My calmness is going to be most helpful. Another situation came up where I took it when it was one of my daughter's friend's birthday party. And at the birthday party, they had those bounce houses. So, everything was great, bouncing, bouncing. I had taken lemon balm before I went in, and I'd given my girls lemon balm before we went in. Because again, I knew we were going into an intense situation with lots of people, lots of noise. So my older daughter, Virginia, I just hear this screaming, and some of the, this parent said, it's your daughter. And so I ran in, crawled through this tiny opening to get into the bounce house, and Virginia's laying there holding her knee, just screaming in pain. And I was like, okay. So I just crawled in and I held her on my lap, and I just rocked her, and I just held her. And I said, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I feel like the worst version of me would have been like, oh my gosh, okay, let's look at your knee. Like, can you move it? Can you flex it? Like, okay, let me think of the worst possible scenario. How are we going to get a stretcher in here to get her out? She must have torn it, and then she's not going to be able to do all of her activities. And then all of this other stuff is going to get messed up in our plans, right? Like doing that. I didn't do that at all. I just held her and rocked her and kissed her head and told her it was going to be okay. And I did that for a good 10 minutes until she calmed down. And I wasn't even really worried about the knee because I just had the sense it's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. And there's nothing I can do that can change what happened. And there's nothing I can do that can change what's going to happen. But what I need to do is be a safe hive, like a little, I need to be a beehive and be a mama bee for my daughter who's in a lot of pain. So eventually when she calmed down, I carried her out of the bounce house. We sat on a bench and I just did some, from my experience as a yoga teacher, I just did some basic movements and realized she was going to be fine. I think she twisted it. It was very scary for her. I think she has the same joints as me. She's very hyper extendable. She's very, very flexible. So I think she just hyperextended it and it popped, which she said, and that noise scared her and it hurt really bad. So we just sat on the side and it was fine. It was absolutely, she was fine. I was fine. I think some of the other mothers were really worried and came over and I said, she's going to be just fine. We got an ice pack for her knee. And it was all okay. And it actually hurt her for maybe 3 or 4 days, but I knew she was going to be okay. And I didn't freak out. And I think that response was in large part to the lemon balm building up in my system over the previous few weeks and also that day. Another thing that was interesting about lemon balm that the group shared, again, this is a large group that my husband and I are leading through a year-long apprenticeship, learning about the planetary transits and the plants. So it's an astrology and herbalism course. So many of the people in that course said that they had this reoccurring theme or mantra in their head, which is all is well, or it's all good, or it's going to be okay. And I had that 100%. Like my default mental mantra was, it's going to be okay. And I had a good friend of mine who's taking the course and she started a new job. And she's like, normally I would be freaking out right now because like I just feel really disoriented. There's new people, there's things I don't know about this job. And you're probably listening to this right now, my friend. And so you said, I normally would be freaking out, but I just feel like it's going to be fine. Like it's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I'm really surprised I'm not freaking out. So I was like, cool, I bet that's lemon balm. And then there were just story after story in the class where people were saying, hospitalizations, injuries, all of these things were normally they would have been thrown off course. They just somehow were able to stay centered. And so I had this image that, well, actually, let me tell you this and then I'll tell you the image. So the next time that I used lemon balm was at my uncle's funeral. So I drove with my aunt. It was her husband who died. So I drove her to the funeral. And as we got there, I ran into my two cousins, her daughters. And as we were walking up the steps, I had lemon balm in my purse. And I just said, I have a plant helper that I think can be really helpful for this situation. It's really good at reducing anxiety and just helping you feel really calm, even though there's a lot going on. And they were all like, yes. So my aunt took some drops. My cousins took drops. We all walked into the church together and it was like a beehive. It was this huge, beautiful cathedral in downtown Minneapolis. And there were just people, buzzing, flowers everywhere. And what I noticed, and I think my cousins noticed too, I mean, at least this is how they appeared, was that there was all this buzzing on the outside, but calm on the inside. And it's like the image of a bee, right? Like the bee is like bzzz, and it's buzzing around, but from the inside center of that bee, it's dancing, it's floating. It's not, I mean, there's not a lot of predators for bees. So the bee is in a blissful, buzzy state on the inside, even though on the outside, it's just sort of this chaotic action. And I was like, that's exactly what this medicine is it gives you that calm center when you are in a very chaotic or busy or loud situation. I also use this plant a lot with my daughters as a tea. and myself as a tea. I would take it as a tea every day, and then I would take the tincture kind of throughout the day as I needed it. But the tea was sort of my main way of taking this herb. And I would give it to my daughters. I would mix it with chamomile because they love chamomile. Chamomile is like the quintessential mother herb. So we all need mothering, even though I'm there with them most of the time. In the mornings, I like to make them chamomile tea just to give them a little bit of calm. And then I used lemon balm during the month because I was already making it for myself. And I found that they had way less tantrums and just they were less irritable with each other and less explosive with their moods, and then they slept better at night. So I was like, I'm continuing to use lemon balm with them because it's such a good plant for kids. It's very, very safe for kids, very safe for adults. Let me tell you about the way that I brew it, and I found it to be brewed best. Was I would take about 2 teaspoons, like rounded full teaspoons, or you could say maybe even like 3 teaspoons to a tablespoon. So somewhere between 2 to 3 like rounded heaping teaspoons. I'd pour 3 cups of hot water over it. And I've got one of those little teapots that has a strainer built in, and I found that that worked really well. So I would let that steep for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'd pull out the basket, and then I would pour myself a glass. And then maybe a few hours later, I'd pour myself another glass. So I'd have about 2 glasses or 2 mugfuls throughout the day. And sometimes at night, I'd even brew myself another small batch to drink at night warm. And it's really nice. It has a little bit of some tannins in it, so that can make it a little astringent, and a little bit. There are some compounds that are a little bit bitter. So if you find that to be too drying or too bitter, you can add a little honey. And again, honey is like it's bee medicine as well. So if you use bee products, you can add a little bit of honey to your lemon balm, and it's so delicious. So I would do that at night sometimes, just to make it a little bit sweeter. And it's such an easy to find, easy to grow medicine. And I strongly recommend it if you are looking for this calm, this feeling that all is well, you're going to be okay, that gentle reassurance. I also wanted to mention, before I end, that I am running a course this summer and actually spring through the summer here at my gardens in Minnesota. I live outside of Minneapolis, so if any of you listeners are listening and you're in the Minneapolis area, I'll be offering gardening circles for women. And not, I mean, I love guys too, but I just really wanted to create a female energy focused group where we're going to garden and talk and explore some deep topics, make medicines together, and just really bond with each other. I'm going to be making herbal teas every time. So if you want to join, it's now on my website under events, and they're called garden gatherings. So you can click on my website, which I'll put a link in the description here on YouTube, and you can check that out. Or you can just go to my website, skyhouseherbs.com, click on events, and then click on garden gatherings, and you can learn more information. I'm offering it by donation with a sliding scale. So I don't want this to be, I don't want money to be an issue. So donate what you can. It's really not a big deal. I have the suggested range at, 5 to 25 per session. And if that's not affordable, that's fine too. I really would rather local people, local women come together, and not have the financial piece be a barrier. So please check that out if you're in the local area. If not, I am happy to announce I'm going to be teaching my online herbal apprenticeship course starting in January of 2024. I don't have the new dates up on the website yet, but those will be there soon. So keep an eye out for that. As always, if you find my videos to be helpful, please like them. Please subscribe to my channel. That helps other people to find me and to hear my work. And please comment. Let me know if you've taken lemon balm, what you noticed in your body, how you use this plant, your favorite brewing or methods of extracting this plant medicine. And again, if you want to learn more about lemon balm, please check out my Herb of the Month video on my YouTube playlist. So that's all for now. I'll see y'all again soon. Have a wonderful day.